Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea. Welcome back to another high level best of 5. Today we have in the bottom left as the blue Terran player playing for Team Psystorm will be Gumiho. And in the top right as our red Zerg, we have none other than Solar here. Good old Solar versus Gumiho. Gumiho, the man who tries to make mech work a lot of the time, sometimes succeed, sometimes doesn't. Has a bunch of funky build orders in the early game as well. Solar, a player that thrives in a standard early game, but a chaotic mid game. Knows how to play the late as well, but really is just a fan of those chaotic mid game scenarios. Gumiho opening up with his own opener, the Gumiho opener. This is a delayed gas with a command center before the orbital command. He will open up with triple marines before getting a reactor or anything else, and because he has that delayed gas, really marines is the only thing he can be building. It is slightly better economically, I believe, but yeah, I'm not so sure about this build. No one else has copied it yet. He's been playing it for a month and a half at this point, maybe even a bit longer already. First time I saw it, it might have actually been 2 months ago. I'm curious to see. Oh no, he's actually changing it up here. So he just takes a later gas, then gets that. Okay, this is slightly different from what I initially saw. So what he used to do back in the day is he would rally into the gas in a very slow way to have maximum mineral saturation. He'd build one extra SCV on the command center so that he could get the CC faster, because obviously an SCV is cheaper than an orbital command. So then you have a delayed orbital command but a faster natural command center. And he would always open up with triple marines. Now in this case I still believe it's going to be triple marines. But the factory is just going to be just slightly quicker over here, I believe. What is this SCV going to be doing though? Is this for a proxy starport? Or what actually is he doing with this? I am not so sure. Maybe he just wants to start marching across the map to build a bunker? It would be a really odd play. Second gas is going down here as well. You have the reactor starting, obviously. Did that Overlord just die? Yeah, it did. It's kind of a big deal losing an Overlord in the early games. Extremely frustrating for Zerg players. Third base is just now going down. Or well, just now. It's 2:35. That's actually not too late at all. Especially if you lose an Overlord. It's going to be a bunker indeed. Okay, I haven't seen this one yet. Solar knows though. Solar is aware of the tricks that Gumiho has up his sleeves. Like it is actually kind of wild. Sending over 2 queens as well to try and deal with this, as the marines. I'm not quite sure if they will be in this bunker in time. I don't think the SCV will survive, honestly. Yeah, looks kind of bad. Queens, of course, because of this, will miss an inject and also will miss a creep tumor throwdown. Bunker needs to be cancelled. Here, Gumiho, there we go. Could have probably defended it a bit better with the marines though, making sure that the Lings don't attack too much. Maybe even take out a Ling there. Follow-up is going to be Hellions and Banshees, or at least that's what it seems like. Glittering Ashes is a rather large map, and it's a map on which Mutas are known to be quite good. There's a couple of ramps that are tricky to deal with as a Zerg player. Tanks on that low ground can be extremely daunting to fight against. Especially if you're just fighting with pure Ling Bane. Getting a flank is not always the easiest either. Because there doesn't tend to be too much creep over there on like these sides where it's easy to set up a flank. So, of course, this high ground in the back can also provide some cover for this more forward position. There's still a lot of positions that are kind of hard. It's funny because just purely based on size, this is obviously a Zerg map, but then you have these little map features that make it kind of okay for Terran. And if this was a smaller map, it would be really good for Terran. It's not going to be a Banshee, by the way. It's just going to be a Raven instead. 6 Hellions into Raven. We see that stim being produced right now. 3rd CC on the way, and this is one hell of a wall. It's not a good one, but I think this works. So Gumiho will be able to wall there. 37 SCVs. Hasn't started his extra barracks yet. Should really start that pretty soon from now. There we go. Barracks 2 and 3 on the way. Factory will fly over towards this tech lab. I can only imagine that is what he's going to be doing here, because what else is it going to be, right? Double eBay. So a bit of an odd opener. Kind of what we expect out of Gumiho. But the follow-up is fairly standard. I'm I'm not too surprised to see this type of move. Tanks will start producing soon as well as the factory flies over. And marine production will be kicked up a notch as well. Double E-base can start the +1 for the infantry weapons as well as for the armor. This Raven actually is going to dive a bit deeper. So deep dive into the Zerg base, and as a result we'll manage to snatch one drone. There's still one auto turret available on this Raven, and as it hasn't taken any damage, it can decide to either go into the main or towards that third base. Solar skipping spores except in his natural. It means that he has a pretty good economical position here. He's up, well, honestly, a lot of workers. He's up a fair amount of supply as well. His upgrades are similarly timed to his opponent. I really do like this start here for Solar. He hasn't been in any trouble whatsoever. He's building 12 links right now. That's just for safety. He already has 17 links. So he's going to go up to 29 links. That's of course plenty to deal with these 5 Hellions that are still around over here. As one Hellion must have fallen. I might have just barely missed that. Yeah, must have missed that. Barracks 4 and 5 do finish up right now as the tanks continue being pushed out. 2 tanks are here, and like I said before, this is a map on which tank pushes can be quite powerful, especially if the creep doesn't reach that far yet. But you already see a couple of creep tumors downstairs, and if these tumors get another line of tumors out, another layer of tumors, it's actually going to take a while for Gumiho to get that push set up. You see Gumiho actually moving towards the far right side right now, but if the creep is already reaching there, there's just no way you're going to be capable of having a decent fight. The Pneumatized carapace is being researched as well, as we see Gumiho looking for any run-by setups. It's not going to find any because there's not a single link on the map. Everything is being focused at the defense here. And, well, to be quite honest, I just don't really see a way for Gumiho to deal a lot of damage. These Marines will have 1-1, they will get combat shield relatively soon as well. They're taking out a lot of creep, and this is an okay-ish position, but there's just so many links. There's plenty of banelings as well, and I'm not saying that Solar can march up here, but I guess he can, yeah. Even without the queens to tank these tank shots, it's not been a good start here for Gumiho. He has not been capable of doing what he wants to, just losing 2 tanks there. That's going to severely weaken the follow-up push as well. I'm just not a huge fan of this early game so far. It feels like Solar gets to do everything that he wants to. He's throwing down his Hydra, then his infestation pit already. 5th base, yep, there we go. 5th base is already on the way as well. That is a big anti-armor missile though. If he can, well, I mean, he can't really force a fight here. There's no tank, there's no splash except for these well-split Hellbat. This is just not going to work out. This is not a fight that Gumiho can take right at this moment. The supply looks good, but in this case the supply does lie. Because there's just a bunch of banelings and there's a single tank with this army. It's going to be so darn difficult for Gumiho to get anything going right now. So we see a lot more units on the way. Oh, a couple of these banelings are going to connect. Here comes the flank. Solar kind of collapses on top of this army. We'll be able to clean this up, yeah, honestly, pretty easily. There's not much of an issue here, and Solar takes a big supply lead. Still has a lot of money in the bank as well, working with that superior drone count for such a long time. The macro hatchery is not actually producing any larvae. There's no queen there. Extra gas is now being taken. Perhaps soon also extra gases here at the 4th base. And a hive should be starting soon as a result of that. Yep, there we go. Hive starts. Just that extra gas is such a clear indicator of where Solar's mind is currently. It is possible that Solar decides to delay his lurkers for a bit to try and rush out these Vipers first. That is a real possibility here. I wouldn't even mind it too much because the tank count is so little. If you can deny all tanks, you might even be able to push into a 4th base or something like that. If you have like 2 Vipers with a pure Ling Hydra Bane push, that might actually be enough to blinding cloud the 2 tanks that there are. I mean, there's absolutely no splash in this army. You're going to be fighting pure Marines. Marines are good in a single medevac on the Zerg side of the map, but defending a flood of banelings without any splash to help them out, they're not actually that brilliant. They're still a 50 mineral unit, and they'll get overrun like any other 50 mineral unit against banelings. It's just what happens. So we see, ooh, I think Solar actually could have jumped that tank. Now he's going to be a little bit too late as these Marines are coming in. Tank will get taken out, but a lot of the Lynx also die once again, though. Tank count still extremely low. 3 tanks total, 85 workers out. We don't see Vipers. Instead, Solar believes that he can just do it with pure Ling Bane. Well, there's actually no Banelings. This is just pure Ling. These Lings are flooding in towards the 3rd base right now. This army needs to be sent back out of Gumiho, as this choke is proving to be very helpful for the Korean Terran player. 11 SCVs going down already, and these Lings still have a clear escape path as well. Do need to run out at some point. A bunch of them will fall, but 12 workers going down, and there's just so much money to work with for Solar. That's the real issue. Vipers are now on the way. We see these Hydra upgrades and muscular augments. Creep spread is lacking a little bit for how easily Solar has been pushing back these move outs out of Gumiho. It feels like he has not been focusing as much on establishing a dominant creep spread on the map. He's not really halfway yet. These rocks are of course a bother as well, trying to spread up here. Well, he's barely getting up this ramp. He's not even up this middle ramp either. So that is something that he can work with, but I don't think that Solar minds too much. You know, it's not the end of the world. That's for sure. He has a lot of Banelings, he has a lot of Lynx, and well, to me it looks like he wants to play something a little bit more aggressive here. He has the 2 Vipers right now. That means that abducts are going to be a viable solution to low numbers of tanks. This position is pretty well defended though. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 tanks on this side. Only a single tank on the right. Solar does opt to go towards the left side though. I'm not sure if this is a position he can engage into. Solar believes he can. I'm not so sure. There's going to be a couple of blinding clouds. First one hits in a big way. These tanks are on siege. Marines start moving forward as well. Oh my god, these are fantastic blinding clouds here. Almost none of the tanks are shooting. One tank in the back is dealing some damage, but that is not going to be enough. As Overlords are here. I'm not even as a distraction. I mean, it's working. GG gets called as Solar wins game number 1 with a beautiful bust here. Hydra, Ling, Bane, Viper into 7-8 tanks. No problem for the blinding clouds. As Solar takes game number 1 here in Glittering Ashes. We'll be heading into our second game of this best of 5. In game 2 will be played over on Hardwire, which makes me believe that the first map actually was picked by Gumiho. Hardwire is well, usually known to be one of the better Zerg maps in the entire map pool, and it's a map that sometimes even gets vetoed by Terrans because they really do not like it. However, Gumiho with mech might still be a viable option on this map. As once the map gets to a split map scenario, it often isn't actually that bad for Terran. It's difficult for Zerg to take both of these kind of middle bases, this one over here on the right side and this one on the left. They can often get one, but getting both is really difficult because Terran tends to expand like this. So they take this as their 4th base, or as their 3rd base, excuse me. And then they start expanding towards that right side. And then once they have this base is really not viable anymore. And because this is their 3rd base, this base is also really difficult to take. It's just so close in proximity that as a Zerg you really need to start mining from these right side bases as soon as you can, because they're difficult to hold. Split map scenarios often end up in the Terran winning on this map. However, getting to a split map is quite difficult. It's a map that has a lot of different avenues of attack. You have these rocks that you can open up. You have this middle area that can leave the Terran pretty vulnerable. And as the early and mid game is just really good for Zerg, it's a map that often gets won by Zerg. As we have Gumiho opening up with a Reaper first this time, so changing up that, well, he's changing away from his standard opener, the triple marine, or his opener. I'm not quite sure what his standard opener is. A lot of players don't really have a standard opener and just kind of rotate between a couple of build orders. There's always the one thing that you feel most comfortable with. You can't play it all the time. It's not how StarCraft 2 works, of course. Everything can be countered in some minor way. And if you literally always play the same thing, you're just always going to be working from a little bit behind for no real reason. So just mixing it up, even if that build by itself has a slightly lower win rate, it will result in a higher win rate in the other builds, which is very, very important. So overall, improvement to your win rate. The easiest thing to prepare for as well is against players that only play one opener or play one type of style, because you can really hit sick timing. If you know exactly what they're going to be doing, And yeah, that makes life a lot easier preparation-wise for tournaments. Gumiho is not a player that is easy to prepare against, so because he does play a lot of kind of wonky things. If you have a lot of info on people like Gumiho though, you'll often notice that the things they do aren't as random as they initially seem. Gumiho is not like Haas, where with Haas it feels like he is so difficult to predict because his builds aren't necessarily builds a lot of the time. He's a very instinctual player, which leaves Haas's builds often not optimized, but very random. So even if you have a lot of info on Haas or a lot of data on Haas, a lot of replays, it's going to be difficult to exactly figure out what he's going to do and to prepare a good counter. But against a player like Gumiho, who just plays offbeat build orders that are optimized, there is a set of builds that he picks from. And if you know all these builds, you can kind of decently prepare for that. It makes it easier to prepare for, but still can be very difficult to play against because yeah, if your builds are not optimized, they're just a little bit worse. You're always gambling basically in that case. Talk about gambling, we see a Road Warren coming out of Solar here. He's saving up a lot of larva, so I believe there's going to be a 9 Roach rush as we see a couple of Overlords finishing up. There's some supply left over as well. And indeed 7 Roaches are here to stay. Well, not here to stay, they're here to start marching across the map. Fusion Core is on the way and the Hellions have not made their way across the map yet. 2 Marines at home. I am actually not so sure if this is good. Oh my god, look at this fake! Look at this fake out of Gumiho. Faking Stim. Yeah, that's a brilliant little fake there. Oh my god, I love that. And also just the tech lab on the barracks. So right now Solar's probably expecting either a Viking or a Liberator because he thinks that it's a barracks without a tech lab. Well, it doesn't really matter because Solar is all-inning. So I was thinking to myself, oh, this is a great little mind game. I guess if Solar wasn't all-inning, but Solar really just is all-inning. Because there's a lot of links being produced behind this as well. The battlecruiser's not going to be out in time. That requires 30 more seconds. SCVs need to be pulled towards the high ground immediately. Gumiho, what are we waiting for? Oh, yo, that took way too long there. Well, it's still going to be fine. They'll make their way upstairs. Bile's actually hitting units here. That definitely was not supposed to happen. The second depot does not get lifted as these units all stream in towards the main base. More links on the way as well. And Gumiho in a little bit of trouble. GG gets called. He's not going to wait this one out. And Solar, just like that, is up 2-0 in his best of 5. Game number 3 on 2K Atmospheres. The first map where I might actually favor Gumiho a little bit, as we'll have to wait and see what he's going to do. I love that mind game out of him last game. I really do. I'm so sad that we didn't really get to see a response out of Solar because he already was all-inning. But that was just a... I don't know. I really think that was quite smart. Just the timing of that as well. Knowing when the opponent is going to sacrifice the Overlord. And knowing that 5 seconds after that happens, you cancel your stim and you start your battlecruiser with the money you just made from canceling the stim. That is such a cool little trick there at the start. Okay, I think this is the opener that I was talking about in game number 1, where you slowly rally into that gas. So I guess he has a bunch of variations on this late gas. I think it's an 18 gas that he gets every single time. Like a late 17 gas. I'm not so sure what it is, but it's a wild builder. But I'm still going to just open up with that command center, or with that orbital command in the main base. Then get the command center. Command center is a bit faster, by the way, with this. It's kind of funny. If you know the timings, these things, it's just fun to see what a certain action does, what the impact is. So usually the command center is supposed to go down at 139, 138. This one went down, I think, at 134. So it's 4 or 5 seconds quicker than it should be. And that, I'm not quite sure how helpful that's going to be. But, ooh, this is a big spot. This actually is a very big scout here out of Gumiho. Seeing this spawning pool, or seeing this hatchery, seeing that timing, knowing that the spawning pool is there. I'm surprised he decided to stay on the map with 2 Marines, though. That honestly just seems like kind of a bad call. It took him, he even sent his second Marine over there, and his first Marine continued attacking. There's still 1 Marine out, which should be able to at least somewhat deal with this, as long as a couple of SCVs get pulled as well. Solar's trying to make this work. but he cannot. 6 links will die, 2 marines go down, and an SCV pool was forced. Honestly, at the end of the day, I think this is about an even trade. Gumiho is kind of forced into building a bunker here because he's afraid of a roach attack follow-up. And that is a legitimate fear that he has. I empathize with that. I really do. Because very often out of 6 link pool first, the follow-up is going to be roaches. And the fact that it isn't this time is more of an exception than the rule. In my mind, at least. Very, very often we see these roach attacks. So Gumiho with the bunker, just making that safety play. Even is going to get a tank here, or is it a cyclone? I guess he'll swap these two, right? Yeah, okay. He's going to be playing a 2-on-1 type of variation. Well, it's not quite a 2-on-1. It's going to be something like a 2-on-1. It will be a weird build order though, what we're looking at here already. Because this is a 2-base pressure with a Hellion start. It's kind of rare to see that. Often when we see 2-on-1 openers, you get both barracks before the factory. This allows for a high marine count. Of course, if a reactor is on a factory, that means that there's going to be way less marines because... Oh, it's just going to be double car. Huh. Okay, so this is the plan then. You'll get a reactor here and a starport with this SCV. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. I really like it when the builds just fit tightly, you know, with all the swaps and stuff. You can really see when people, especially Terrans, when Terrans thought about a build order, it's the SCV movement, it's the way that the reactors and the tech labs get built. It's just so optimized and it looks so clean. And although this is not a standard build order whatsoever, I know that Gumiho put in a lot of work against the AI here. You know, he had to practice these build orders. He had to optimize them in many different ways. We also kind of got to keep in mind what the goal is with each build order. So here you're showing off a 2-car opener with the 2 cars being relatively late. Solar probably believes that this is going to be something like a triple CC, but then he saw the depots already, so he knows it's not triple CC. So if a third depot is really quick on the low ground, that means that often it's not a triple CC. So yeah, in that case, I'm not actually sure what the fake is going to be or what the trick here is. Because it's obviously not hitting as hard as a regular 2-on-1. There is a tank follow-up here. The third CC is already on the way, and we have double E-base as well for the follow-up. This refinery can be spotted by links, even if they push into the wall, I think. The first 2 medevacs move out, but they only have 12 marines in them. 4 marines are lacking. These 2 Hellions will also join up with the army. Roaches on the way here. Maybe Solar believes this is like a 3 racks off of 1 base into a tank push, which in that case roaches would be fantastic. In this scenario, I'm not sure how great roaches are. They'll be very helpful against this initial push, obviously. The first queen goes down without casting a transfuse. That's actually pretty sloppy there. Solar making a sizable error. These 2 drops will now head in towards the main base. Spore is in position to deal with it. Another queen might just fall here. No, 1 roach will go down. Overlord falls as well with double pickup. Spore gets 1 more pot shot in. These medevacs will need to leave. Decent trades here though for Gumiho. Often you don't get as much against Roach Queen as he did right now. So units lost is pretty heavily in his favor. 2 medevacs still alive with these units in them. Barracks 4 and 5 on the way as the 3rd CC lands. 63 workers against 53. This is the eco situation is a lot better than we saw in that first game, honestly. Just a lot better, in which Solar was almost continuously up 20, 25 workers. In this case, he's only up 10 workers. Well, not even. His 4th base is kind of delayed. Yes, he's getting Ravagers already. Yes, he's getting Roaches. I really think that Solar made it like a double CC read initially, and now he's kind of stuck on this army. We see the Beaming Nest as he probably wants to transition out of this Roach army. He either believed it was mech, or he thought it was going to be a 2-base all-in. I don't think he was expecting this type of bio. He really needs to drone up a little more though. This 4th base isn't done yet. Yeah, 7 more drones on the way. The problem with getting a lot of drones right now is that there's actually some real danger for him here. He doesn't have that many units, and splitting is going to be quite tricky. So he went up to 76 workers. That's going to be a decent eco. Not a great eco, just a decent eco. Tank production is running pretty rampant here. Maybe a second factory could help out as well. But once there's going to be like a 2-2 timing push, which seems to be in the works, we have a lot of Marauders on the way already as well. It's going to be a powerful push. Seems like Gumiho already wants to establish some map presence, perhaps ahead of that moment, or maybe he believes there is an opportunity for him to do something. Oh my god, these Ravagers are actually being caught out. Good target fire out of these Marines. We'll take out 2, we'll take out 3 Ravagers. Another Overseer goes down as well. And all of these Creep Tumors will fall. So Ravagers have to be rebuilt. That means that no Bane... Oh, actually, there's plenty of gas for Banelings as well. The Ravagers getting sniped ahead of the fight though, and Gumiho taking one hell of a fight so far. More Marines being sent in for reinforcements as we see a chunk marching across on the map. Big drop in towards the main base as well. One of the medevacts did just go down. Now we'll drop once again towards the lower ground. But Gumiho is he's playing a game here, and the supply, well, it looks close, but there's no Banelings in this army. It consists of mainly Roaches, there's 4 Ravagers, and there's 2 tanks. There's a bunch of Marauders as well that will be able to deal with these Roaches pretty darn efficiently. None of these biles are hitting. Tanks still shooting for free. Ravagers don't get the connection. GG gets called as Gumiho, in a very one-sided affair, manages to take his first win of the day here on 2K Atmospheres after Solar makes the incorrect read, and we'll be heading into a game number 4. Game number 4 over here on Curious Minds. I have no clue how these map picks are working, but map 4 being Curious Minds is the wildest thing I've seen in a long time. This is just one of the better Terran maps, and not seeing it picked first for the Terran is somewhat surprising, to say the least. I wonder what the final map is going to be. Like, I guess Pride and Berlingrad get vetoed, so then we miss one map, and I obviously have no clue what map that is. Blackburn is still around, I guess. So Blackburn should be the final map. For now though, let's focus on this bad boy, as Gumiho is just opening with something more standard. Solar here, no pool first this time around, does not want to repeat his mistakes of the past. He says, no, I know what went wrong last game, it's because my 6 links did absolutely nothing but kill two Marines. So he decides, you know what, this time I ain't gonna be doing that. Straight up reactor here. Uh-oh, is this going to be a 3-Rex? There are some 3-Rex builds that are powerful, but they often require you to pull out of gas a little bit quicker, and Gumiho is not doing that. The first time I saw a 3-Rex build was on this map, or well, not the first time, but the first high-level game where I saw it in TVZ was on this map between Maru and Rogue in, I want to say it was in like an Aces Rock, or no, it was the DreamHack Season Finals Winter, I believe. They played on this map. And it's really tight timing, this tight move-out timing. That's not going to be the case here though. Instead, we will see Marines into a factory. It's going to be 6 Marines, and then you swap these 2 bad boys. This often gets into a Hellbat all-in from here on out. It is quite common, because you just have a high Marine count, and you get a decent amount of Hellions as well. Now, you're also allowed to march across the map with your initial Marines to try and snipe an Overlord. This is a move that in general Gumiho is really fond of. It wouldn't surprise me if he tries pulling something like that over here. He is a player that likes doing that type of stuff. He really is. Command Center is going to finish up, and we'll see these 4 Marines indeed go on a little mission. Now, I'm not saying that their mission will succeed. I'll let them know they're just going to guard the ramp, and they should be very successful at that, because there's absolutely nothing stopping them from guarding that ramp. Yeah, it's going to be a 6 Marine move out, and its speed is, as always for Zerg players, quite delayed. There's going to be a large timing in which these Marines can provide some value in denying Overlord scouts. Actually, I think what Gumiho is doing right now is he's waiting for the Overlord scout to come in, and at that point Gumiho will say, ta-da! I will kill your freaking Overlord for free. And this Overlord's actually, well, the Watchtower gets going to see these Hellions. Medevac is a follow-up, and here we indeed see the armory. The problem with builds like this is, if I can say ahead of time that it's most likely going to be a Hellbat all-in, and I'm not a Terran or a Zerg player, I know that Solar, who studies this game very hard, he pretty much has a gut feeling as well. Like, okay, you played reactor first, most likely. He's gonna see the 6 Marines here. And this should be enough info for Solar to say, hey, something funky is going on. We see 14 links in production, 3 more queens on the way, going up to 7 queens right now. This is just one of these scenarios in which I believe that it's quite obvious what's happening. Solar should know what's going on as well. It's going to be 6 Hellbats, but there will be 7 queens with a couple of transfuses as well. I see 2 transfuses if I count quickly, and I can count very quickly. Not to brag, but that's one of my many specialties. Queen's trying to focus down medevac if they can, and otherwise just try to focus on these Hellbats, of course. Here, once again, some target fire on that medevac, perhaps. No, first Hellbat is going to fall. 7 SCVs go down on the other side of the map, though. Ling run by dealing a lot of damage there. That means that this push turns from a heavy pressure into a complete all-in. And, well, if you kill 2 queens with a complete all-in, that often isn't actually enough. 9 workers go down. Yeah, GG gets called as Gumiho is absolutely dead here. That follow-up Banshee would not have been able to achieve too much. And GG gets called. Solar wins the series 3-1 in a kind of unreal one-sided series. Every single game that got won was extremely one-sided. The game that Gumiho won was very one-sided. This game was one-sided. The first game was one-sided. The second game was one-sided. This was the most one-sided series that I've seen. Still glad that I've seen it though. I hope you guys think the same. Thanks all so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thank you so much, and bye bye.